The views and opinions expressed on Wrestling Winedown are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. We're popping the bottle on April. What's up, guys? It's Lo, and you are tuned in to Wrestling Winedown, a female-founded and hosted podcast dedicated to professional wrestling and our favorite adult beverage. WWE recently released their 50 greatest women list exclusively on the Peacock app. The streets are talking. This list is very controversial. I've brought in Ella J from A Wrestling Gal, DS Shin from Ring the Bell, and Iridian Fiero of the Rest Friends podcast to chat all about this list. Who do we agree and disagree with ratings-wise, and who was definitely missing from this list? So grab your glass of wine. We're going in for the 3 count. We're chatting about this 50 greatest women's list that was recently released by the WWE. So they released it on Peacock, which is where you can get all your WWE network type stuff now. But they surprised us with this list. I think a lot of people from the get-go, they were nervous to see the list because WWE sometimes ranks people high, ranks people low. They do people kind of bad sometimes. But what was your first impression when you first saw the list, DS?
I mean, the moment it was publicized, we were like, oh, this is going to be a hellfire. Because whenever you're listing people and like counting people who's better, you know that Twitter is going to go, they're going to have a field day. But it definitely did not disappoint. But honestly, like, this was very interesting list. I was surprised about it. Like, I was like, oh, I did not think this will go that way. I did not think WWE will list people like that. It was a whole ass mess.
Oh, man. They were releasing it 10 by 10s, right? And I was like, oh, this is like, all right, I would see these people here, but then I'm like, all right, we're missing people. I don't know if they're going to make the list, and it's getting closer. We're in top 20 now, and some people haven't been mentioned. So that was like the anticipation of, the horror of, this whole list being released. But, oh man, what craziness. All of it.
Like I've said to you guys, a lot of this list was honestly really, really whack. And again, it's you try to be objective with it. Like they named their parameters, but Twitter is always going to keep it subjective. We obviously, some of us have skewed biases, but we're also trying to keep it objective. And when you list people, you just know there's going to be hellfire, like DS said. And I certainly have some grievances, as well as I bet a lot of us do as well with this list, but we'll get into that later on.
But I do want to say that there are some like really pleasant surprises too.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that obviously, but some of them are like, wow, WWE, I did not expect that in a good way.
So let's just start from the top of the list. Number 50, we had Toni Storm, who is the 2018 Mae Young Classic winner. She was also a former NXT UK Women's Champion. 49, we had Caitlyn, who is a former WWE superstar. She was a Divas Champion, and she was the NXT Season 3 winner. 48 was Kaylee Ray. She is the current NXT UK Women's Champion. She's also the longest reigning NXT UK Women's Champion, holding the championship for over 500 days. And she also was on the team of the winning first ever women's War Games match. 47 was Sonya Deville, the first ever women's tag team elimination chamber match winner in 2019, as she is or was, however they're going with her, SmackDown general manager. 46, Shotzi Blackheart. She is the current NXT women's tag team champion. She was breakout superstar of the year in 2020. 45, fan favorite Kelly Kelly, WWE Divas Champion, the first woman to become the 24/7 champion. 44, Candice LeRae. She was a War Games champion, the last War Games. 43, Nikki Cross. She is a 2-time WWE Women's Tag Team Champion. 42, Layla, a former WWE superstar who was a WWE Women's Champion. She was a Divas Champion, and she was the winner of the 2006 WWE Diva Search. 41, Ember Moon, who is also the current NXT Women's Tag Team Champion. She is also a former NXT Women's Champion. And finally, at number 40, Eve Torres, who is a 3-time WWE Divas Champion and the winner of the 2007 Diva Search.
So this was the first little list that we got, and the moment we saw like the mix of, and also no offense to any of them, but like, you know, Shotzi Blackheart, she's a rookie. So seeing Shotzi and, you know, mixed up with Candice LeRae, with like Eve Torres and Layla, the last ever WWE Classic Women's Champion. You know, Eve Torres, Caitlyn, the winner of the NXT Season 3. It was definitely like, oh, something's happening here.
Right.
Things are interesting, is what we thought.
I did not expect to see Caitlyn on this list.
Really? Tell me more.
I think I was out of WWE when she was really having her storylines, but from the way that they portray her now, like she was on a watch along a couple weeks ago, they didn't announce her. Like she randomly came on. To me, it kind of seemed like throwing her in here at almost the last number is like, okay, well, now we're kind of having you active in the WWE, so we'll push you on this list by ranking her at 49.
You know what it feels like? Like if they put, oh, you know, vets and new people in a hat, all of their names, and they just kind of like picked people. And, you know, this was like the first 10 that they released, because you're right. Names like Kelly and Layla, these are women we grew up with. To have them with like, you know, Sonya Deville and, you know, Candice LeRae, it's just like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense the way they organized it, at least the first 10, you know, to be released. And then we found out that later on in the list, a lot of it doesn't make sense.
Me and Ella had talked about Kelly's rating, which was 45. Explain that, Ella. Why do you think she should have been higher in the list?
I think because Kelly was their go-to golden girl of the Divas era from like 2008 to her leaving in 2012. She really was their babyface of the Divas division. She's a former Divas champion. You know, she had a great WrestleMania moment with Maria Menounos, and she defeated Beth Phoenix twice during her reign as Divas champion. She was their go-to girl and maybe the most popular diva ever, possibly during that era. And so I was really shocked she was placed at 45, right below, and nothing to take away from Shotzi Blackheart. But like DS said, Shotzi Blackheart is still a rookie in WWE. She's been here since late 2019, if I'm correct, too. And to see her ranked above somebody like Caitlyn, who is a former Divas champion and a former NXT Season 3 winner, was really shocking to me. And again, that's not to take anything away from Shotzi Blackheart. I think she is going to do incredible things. But during the timing of this, she's been here less than a year and a half. And some of these rankings do not make sense to me. I think Kelly should be at least top 40. I think she's improved so much over her career, and she should really be above a lot of these people. But again, that's just my opinion.
Right. So the criteria was the in-ring accomplishments and championship victories and creating legendary moments. So like that criteria doesn't really go with, you know, the rookie like Shotzi Blackheart or even Sonya Deville, who just started having her great moment in 2019 or 2020, right? 2020 was her like breakout moment. So like such a talented people, but seeing them with, you know, Caitlyn or Layla or Eve Torres, even Candice LeRae, who's had a great time in NXT, but like seeing them with those like legendary household names, it was weird.
I also think Eve Torres has such a strong run in WWE. She was also a big baby face. When they brought her in after the Diva Search, she was extremely good in the ring. She captivated a lot of fans. So to see her at 40 threw me off.
Oh, I'll have to say, I didn't like her as a babyface at all, to be honest, but her as a heel, delicious. One of the best heels ever, for sure. Her as a babyface, no.
I can see that, 'cause she was kind of hiding behind Kelly's shadow for a while before she broke out and turned heel. So I can totally see where you're coming from.
Justice for Layla, because she is freaking amazing. She, again, was the last holder of the WWE Classic Women's Champion, the Diva Search winner, Divas Champion. She's freaking legend. She needs to be higher, I feel like.
And she was there for a good 10 years, right? Like 10 years. So, and that's a long time for a WWE women's superstar. So I think she should have been higher as well.
Moving on to the second part of the list that WWE released, we have at number 39, Lacey Evans. She was in the first women's match in Saudi Arabia. 38, Jazz, a two-time WWE Women's Champ. She's an ECW alum. She's in Impact right now. 37, Maurice, two-time WWE Divas Champion, 2006 WWE Divas Search alum. 36, Nia Jax, who is the current WWE Women's Tag Team Champion. She's held this title twice. She's also been the Raw Women's Champion. 35, my girl, Bianca Belair. She is the 2021 Women's Royal Rumble winner, and she's tied with the most eliminations at the Royal Rumble. Number 34, Carmella. She is a former SmackDown Women's Champion, two-time Money in the Bank ladder match winner. 33, Gail Kim. She is a former WWE Women's Champion. She won the Women's Championship in her debut match. 32, Jacqueline. She is a two-time WWE Women's Champion. She was also a former WWE Cruiserweight Champion, and she's a Hall of Famer. 31, Kairi Sane. She was the 2017 Mae Young Classic winner. She's also a former NXT Women's Champion and a former WWE Women's Tag Team Champion. And finally, my other girl, Naomi, two-time SmackDown Women's Champion, and she also appeared on Total Divas. Now, this part of the list is a show.
I mean, I think this part of the list, I mean, I'll start with surprising picks, Jazz and Gail Kim being in there. Obviously, Jazz and Gail Kim, they're almost like blacklisted from WWE from what we know, because Jazz was participating in that the concussion lawsuit. Gail Kim obviously did not end the best with WWE. She basically like walked out during that battle royale. Amazing, the most amazing way to quit WWE, by the way. She just walked out of the battle royale. But she has been very vocal about, you know, the WWE's mistreatment of women and POC talents. So she's also kind of basically blacklisted. So it was surprising to see them. A pleasant surprise, I'll say.
Yeah, with Jazz too, she was very vocal about how WWE used women of color. So
right,
it is interesting that they had her on the list. I'm glad to see her on the list. I'm a huge Jazz fan.
Oh, they're legend. Both of them
Absolutely.
Legendary. Yeah.
Should Lacey Evans really be 39?
Lacey Evans at 39. Lacey Evans could have been 51. She could have been left off the list. She could have been 50 even. I don't think that her in-ring work yet has stood out enough for her to be in this list of 10 women who have accomplished so much, who have been champions. Lacey Evans has not gotten there yet. So for her to be named in the top 50 greatest, sure, she had that, you know, historic moment at Saudi Arabia, but I don't think that's enough to qualify to be on this list.
And I agree with you. I think most of this list, if you look at it, they've held championships before. She has not held a championship. So for her to be ranked over Layla, Kelly, Caitlyn, Eve Torres, it's strange because they've all held championships within their tenure in the WWE, and she has not yet. So interesting pick to have her at 39.
I agree with what you said. It's very, I don't know what the right word is, but I agree that there are women who are from 40 to 50 that could have easily had that spot. Perhaps it would have been like a Kelly in my mind. I think she should be closer in that 40 to 50 bracket. I don't know. I do agree with a lot of the ones in here, although I do believe that Jazz and Jacqueline should be a bit higher. I do agree with Bianca's rating because the time she spent in the company, it's a fair ranking. She has the potential to do a lot more, but for right now, for what she's accomplished, I think that's a fair rating for Bianca Belair. She's a lot more to prove and she has a lot more she can do, but for 2021 right now, I think that's a fair rating for Bianca Belair and for people like Carmella, who still have futures in the company, along with Naomi. I think Naomi should have been technically she's top 30, but I think she should have been in the 20s, to be honest. She's she was in NXT season 3. She's a former SmackDown Women's Champion. She's done so much. She's so athletic in the ring, and I think she should have been in the 20s at least, just a little bit higher. But overall, I'm okay with this 30 to 40 bracket.
So this is a vibe I get from this. So like, I want to make sure I say this the right way, but obviously throughout the years, WWE had amazing and super talented POC talent, but they didn't book them well. They didn't. So if you look at the accomplishment wise, it would be difficult to ranked them very high. And WWE probably knows that. They're like, oh, shoot, we really didn't do that well. So it's almost like we can't put them all in the bottom of the list. So let's put them in this comfortable area.
Literally.
Yeah, they like shoved it, all of them in this comfortable area, which is a criminal. Like, I think it's, they should see all these names. They're all legendary. They did amazing things. They're so talented. But you can clearly see that WWE didn't push them well, like the other names that we'll see higher up in the list. So you can see that they haven't been doing a great job with it, and they gotta improve on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. Number 29, we had Bull Nakano. She is a former WWE Women's Champion. 28, we had Ivory. She is a 3-time WWE Women's Champion. She is also a Hall of Famer. 27, Melina, a 3-time WWE Women's Champion, a 2-time WWE Divas Champion. We can't forget about that iconic entrance that she always does. 26, the Bella Twins, not just Brie Bella or Nikki Bella, both Bellas all in one. Brie is a former WWE Divas Champion. Nikki is a 2-time WWE Divas Champion. She had the longest reign as Divas Champion. They main evented Evolution. At number 25, Io Shirai, the current NXT Women's Champion. She was also the War Games captain. At number 24, Luna Vachon. She is a former USWA Women's Champion. She is a Hall of Famer. At number 23, Stephanie McMahon, a former WWE Women's Champion. She was the Raw, the SmackDown GM. Number 22, Michelle McCool, a 2-time WWE Women's Champion, 2-time Divas Champion. She was the first Divas Champion. 21, Rhea Ripley. She is a former NXT Women's Champion. She was a former NXT UK Women's Champion. And at 20, Natalia, who is known for her confessionals on Total Divas, she is a former SmackDown Women's Champion, a WWE Divas Champion, and she also competed in the first women's match at Saudi Arabia. Melina at 27 is
criminal. Criminal.
Absolutely criminal.
Honestly, shocking to see. I honestly thought when I first saw this list coming out, I thought, okay, Bella Twins obviously top 10. And I also thought Michelle McCool, I thought Michelle McCool would be top 10 too. So it was,
or at least top 20.
Right. I mean, obviously when it comes to top 20, it's a very tough list. But just because of their popularity and just amazing list of accomplishments, I thought they would be at least top 10. I was shocked.
I know, Ella, you felt very strongly about Melina's position on this list.
Yeah. So their parameters are championship victories, right? Iconic moments and in-ring accomplishments. And as much as I love Rhea Ripley, to be number 21 seems very odd, very interesting, especially above somebody like Melina, who is a 5-time women's champion. And for a while, her, Trish, and Mickey were like the most decorated women's champions ever before this before this new generation of people. So the fact that she is listed below some people who have way less championships than her and way less iconic moments, like not just her entrance alone is iconic. She did so much work with Eminem, and then she held so many championships. She had an amazing face run as well. Coming back from injury was amazing. I don't understand how she is not at least top 20 or at least hovering around the 20 mark. She should be higher than a lot of the people that are above her. And the fact that the Bella Twins aren't put separately is one thing. And the fact that they're not top 20 is criminal as well. Yeah. Honestly, Nikki could be easily top 15 people, to be honest with you. I don't know why they lumped them together when they are two. Yes, the Bella Twins are a great brand, but they are also had two different paths themselves, two different stories going on here, a lot of different moments separately. So they should have done separate entries for them as well.
Iridian, what are your thoughts on them putting the Bella Twins together?
So mad. So mad at this. When I saw, I'm like, the first thing that came to mind, I'm like, this would never happen to Jeff and Matt. Jeff and Matt would never be clumped together as, in the 50 top greatest male wrestlers of all time. And definitely, I feel like Nikki could have been top 10. Brie could have been top 20, right? Because I don't think Brie had as great of a career or as a showing as Nikki did. I feel like they pushed Nikki a little bit more, so she got a little bit more chances. But I hate that they put them together and that they're number 26. like the impact that the Bellas have had in wrestling alone, top
And
10.
continue to have.
Yes. And I feel like this criteria that they're using, like, is not even, mentioning anything that they've done like outside. It's just based in ring. And if you've had an iconic moment in ring, forget about Total Divas, Total Bellas, everything that you've done, outside of the WWE, because Total Divas also had Natalia, also had Naomi. You had a lot of women there, that really changed the game and brought in a lot of audience for WWE that wasn't watching wrestling before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And can we talk about that WWE Network tweet where they use both Brie Bella's render? And the thing is that they've done that multiple times. It's so ridiculous.
Oh gosh. I think it's interesting that Stephanie is rated before the Bella Twins, before Melina.
Good. But like also, I feel like Stephanie has like put her foot in everything in the WWE. So like,
I
not like
agree.
a bad way, right? But I feel like she's just always been there.
Yeah.
So I would, but in ring, like,
Right.
Hey, Stephanie has never had a bad match, if you think about it. Never
she's
had a bad match.
to watch for sure.
I'm honestly surprised that Stephanie didn't have a Royal Rumble appearance yet, to be honest.
Yes.
But legendary. I think Stephanie's honestly legendary. But yeah, I think I kind of understand, given that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
whenever someone's making a list and it's a episode, you want to mix in the name from different generations so that people who are watching, the recent fans watching, they're like, oh, I don't know all these names, but they were like, oh, I know someone. So I understand that, but still, like, Melina, Bella Twins, them being in this bracket is like, I don't understand.
How do you guys feel about Io Shirai being at 25?
I love Io, but I might have moved her like to the 30s, I think.
Right. I have to say her garbage can spot at War Games alone should put her on this list. Above Melina and Bella Twins, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I have to agree too. Like, I love Io and I love Rhea, but to be placed at 21 and 25, yes, they're incredible and they have incredible futures ahead of them. But to be placed above some of the people that, like we mentioned, I don't know. I don't know their booking decision for this one.
Right. Be patient. They have like 10 more years in their career.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will be higher in the list later, right?
Let's move on. We're getting close to the end. 19, we had AJ Lee, 3-time WWE Divas champ. She was a former Raw general manager and a former FCW Divas champion. 18, Shayna Baszler, a 2-time NXT Women's champion. She is the current WWE Women's Tag Team champion. She's held that championship twice. At 17, we have Paige. She is the 2-time WWE Divas champion, first NXT Women's champion. She's also been the SmackDown GM. Sable, she is a 2-time Slammy Award winner, and she was Women's champ before. 15, Molly Holly. She is a 2-time WWE Women's champion, and she is going into the Hall of Fame this year. 14, Victoria, 2-time Women's champion. She competed in the first Women's Steel Cage match, Hardcore Women's title match, and the Chicago Street Fight match. 13, Alexa Bliss, 3-time Raw Women's Champion, 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion, 2-time Women's Tag Team Champ, Money in the Bank winner. 12, Mickie James, 6-time Women's Champion, a WWE Divas Champion. 11, Beth Phoenix, 3-time WWE Women's Champion, WWE Divas Champion. She is a Hall of Famer, and she competed in the Men's Royal Rumble match. At 10, we have Bayley. She was the first Women's Tag Team Champion. She was a former NXT Women's Champion, a former 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion. And she had an iconic NXT match at NXT TakeOver with Sasha Banks. I love Sable. I love Sable's theme song. I feel like Sable was iconic in terms of being that eye candy in the WWF and WWE, but I don't think Sable should be above Melina and the Bella Twins. I think if anything, Sable could have been on that list of that Tori Wilson was on.
Oh, the memorable, the honorable mentions. We're just in shock.
I think Sable deserved to be high in the list because she's like the face of 90s. Like, she is the biggest name. She drew the ratings. she's the star of 90s WWF, so I think she deserves to be high in the list. The ring wise, yes, there's a lot of things to say about that. But just the influence and the name value and all the just popularity, I think Sable deserves to be top up here.
About Sable, I think she should be top 30, but that's not my major grievance with this one.
Oh, I know.
What is it?
Is
Let
it
us
Mickey
know about Mickey
James?
James.
So
Ah.
the fact that she is not at least top 10 is absolutely criminal, in my opinion. Again, we're talking about championship victories.
Right.
Again, before this new wave of superstars, she was always that person right behind Trish Stratus as the most decorated women's champion at 6 victories, right? And she has had plenty of iconic moments. Again, Trish at WrestleMania 22. She was #1 wrestler, women's wrestler in 2009 on the PWI Top 50. Let's not talk about that storyline at the end of that year, but she's also been top 5 a few times. I believe she was like one of the most popular divas in like 2008, 2009. You know, she won those Halloween contests like over people like Kelly, who was also very popular. And the fact that she is ranked at number 12 above somebody in the top 10 who was only there a year and a half and won championship is a criminal. And I'm keeping it real. And yes, I'm biased and I'm skewed to her favor, but she should be at least top 10, in my opinion, especially for counting championship victories and iconic moments.
Let me ask you this, Iridian. Do you think Shayna Baszler should have been this high on the list?
No, because I feel like Shayna's still fresh. Even though she has been there for, a little bit. I think that, just because you've had 4 championship reigns, I feel like you could have been further down the list. You still have a long way to go. They could have pushed her back a couple numbers, I think.
Agreed completely. That's another notable thing. I don't know how like top 20 above somebody like the Bella twins or Melina, or Michelle McCool. Just again, it's one of those newer stars that yes, they have a lot of I'm sure they will have other shining moments, but to be top 20 seems very odd and very interesting. But again, that's just me.
Right. This was very interesting. It was great to see AJ Lee being recognized on the list because again AJ is not in the best term with WWE, so seeing her up here, obviously great. I love the Victoria recognition since her Royal Rumble comeback. She's been on everything in WWE programming. I freaking love it, and you can tell that she is so happy. She's so happy. So obviously she had so much accomplishments. So I love to see her rank this high. Same for Molly Holly. Paige, what do you guys think about Paige being on top 20?
Paige is going to be, in history forever, but is she top 20? I don't think so. Maybe top 30. I wouldn't kick her out of the list, right? Because she has had historic moments. She held that NXT women's title and the Divas champ at the same time, her debut night that she came out. So she should be on the list. It's just, I don't think top 20.
I would say top 20, top 30 for Paige. So I feel like with Paige, what stands out about her, and I'm not that much of a fan of her, but she had a unique look compared to what we saw in a diva. And I'm wondering if that came into play on this list, was that when she came in, she didn't have what we thought a diva was. I think for a long time, there was a misconception that, divas had to look a certain way or they had, they had to be a certain type. And when she came in and she had this character that was unique and out of the ordinary, I think people gravitated towards her a lot. And I'm almost wondering if that's why they put her so high on the list, is because she was so different from everyone else at the time. What do you guys think?
I mean, obviously, she is gonna be remembered in history. She freaking had a movie that was produced by The Rock, so she obviously deserves a name on the list. it just gets to a comparing game. Like,
Yeah.
compared to Michelle McCool, Bella Twins, Melina, like, that's when it gets kind of like, oh, like, what do we think? You know what I mean? So I
Right.
do think she's a little higher in the list than I think, but the other thing that I'm really curious about is like, who approved this list? Like, is this Vince McMahon approved this? Is it the creative team, or is it just like an intern at NBC? Like, that's what I'm really curious about, because I was always curious who are like WWE's favorite to least favorite when it comes to like four horsewomen, or like Beth, Nikki, Melina, or like Kelly and Maurice. I mean, I was always curious about that, and to see this list, I am so curious if this is Vince McMahon's thoughts or like just like a staff member's thoughts.
You know what's interesting is the women that have acknowledged this list. And we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but Trish made recognition of this list on her Instagram a couple days ago. Melina made reference of hers, and she was not happy with her spot. Yes. So she actually wrote in her newsletter that I actually have a screenshot of it.
Oh, Reed, please do.
Melina was not happy?
No.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't be happy too, but
So here's what Melina said. She said, "There's so much to say, but I will save it all for another time. I don't take these rankings personally or seriously. I don't mean that in an insulting way. I'm honored to be mentioned on the list. I do believe there are ladies that should have been ranked after me and some that deserve to be ranked higher than me. I wonder who decided this and how, but I don't lose sleep over it because no matter what number or name you try to label me with, I am forever Melina. I know my worth, always have and always will. 27 is a cute number, though. They are my numbers in numerology."
Cute number.
So she's not happy. She's not happy. She's like, 27. Yeah, she's not happy. I mean, I understand it.
Have you guys seen anyone else respond to this?
Gail.
Mickey has too.
What did Gail say?
So Gail was just shocked that WWE mentioned her at all, because I think the only time the WWE ever mentioned her was like whenever Mia Yim does the Eat Defeat. Like, just Beth kind of like puts it in there, like, oh, that's Gail Kim's move, by the way. But yeah, Gail was surprised, and then she talked about it, and then some of the fans of the people that's not included in the list started attacking Gail, saying like, oh my God, you should be grateful. Don't be disrespectful. There are people who are not included in the list. How dare you? And Gail's like, you don't know what I've gone through with WWE. Why are you telling me how to feel about this? I'm on Team Gail about that. Sorry, but and don't pit women against each other. Like, we all know, we're going to talk about this, but we all know that people like Alicia Fox, she should have definitely been in the list. But just because she wasn't in the list and Gail's not happy about, I mean, she was not even not happy about it, but she was surprised that she's in the list. Doesn't mean you can put them against each other.
What did Mickey have to say?
Publicly, she just
I want to know the private talk.
Publicly, I tweeted something about like, because in the video, obviously, I got emotional, and there's a quote where she says like, there's a difference between good and being great, and I said, I think you mean greatest of all time. And so she retweeted that, and then she tweeted hearts around the number 12, although I agree she should be higher. And I think deep down she does too. But publicly, that's all she had to say.
Right.
Let's move on to our top 10. This was probably the part of the list where everyone kind of lost their So number 9, Ronda Rousey. She is a former Raw Women's Champion. She main event WrestleMania. They also said on her video that she was a UFC Hall of Famer, which really does not have anything to do with WWE. Number 8, we have Lita, a 4-time WWE Women's Champion, a Hall of Famer, and the first woman to main event Monday Night Raw with Trish Stratus. 7, Alundra Blaze. She is a 3-time WWE Women's Champion, a WWE Hall of Famer, a former WWE 24/7 champion, and she infamously trashed her women's title belt on Nitro. Number 6, Sasha Banks, the current SmackDown Women's Champion, 5-time Raw Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion, NXT Women's Champion, Tag Team Champion, and she competed in the first women's Hell in a Cell match. Number 5, Asuka, Raw Women's Champion. She currently holds the title. She is a 2-time WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, 914-day undefeated streak, and she was the first Women's Royal Rumble winner. Number 4, China, a former WWE Women's Champion, former WWE Intercontinental Champion. She is a part of the Hall of Fame with DX, not solo. She is the first woman to enter the Royal Rumble match. Number 3, Becky Lynch, 3-time SmackDown Women's Champion, Raw Women's Champion, 2019 Royal Rumble winner. She main evented WrestleMania, and she was the first women's double champion. Number 2, Charlotte Flair, 4-time Raw Women's Champion, 5-time SmackDown Women's Champion, 2-time NXT Women's Champion, Tag Team Champion. She main evented WrestleMania. She competed in the first Women's Hell in a Cell match, Royal Rumble winner. And at number 1, Trish Stratus, the 7-time WWE Women's Champion. She is a Hall of Famer. She was the WWE Diva of the Decade and the first woman to main event Raw with Lita. How are we feeling about this part of the list? Let's start out with number 9.
Yes. I mean, I have to say, I honestly thought they will put her at top 5.
So did I.
So I'm glad that didn't happen.
Do we think that she should have been included in this list? Like, do we think that during her time in WWE that she elevated the WWE women's division enough to be listed above people like the Bella Twins? Like, we talked about the Bella Twins 20 minutes ago because they were ranked so far away from Ronda Rousey. Ella, what do you think?
I do think yes, considering who else is on this list. Yeah, she should definitely be a part of it. You know, she main evented WrestleMania. I honestly genuinely liked her first showing at WrestleMania with Kurt Angle. I think that was a great match. But to be ranked above people who have been here longer, have more championship wins, have more iconic moments and longer tenures than her, feels very weird. I honestly wish I was fully expecting her to be top 5. I was slightly relieved she was not, but I still don't think she should be top 10 personally. I don't know where I would rank her, honestly. I don't think in the top 10 at all, not even top 20, honestly, comparing to other people. And the fact that she's ranked number 9, obviously whoever wrote this list is skewed and favored towards her. Again, we don't know who that is, but I mean, she does have influence with like more mainstream stuff to the women's division. But again, they said they're ranking it on championship wins, iconic moments, and in-ring accomplishments. That's really all I have to say.
They didn't have enough accomplishments for her, so that's why they said that she was in the UFC Hall of Fame. I can't believe that she's at number 9. Bayley's at number 10. Bayley's a Grand Slam champion.
Right.
You know, Ronda had one title and she main evented WrestleMania, yes, but that's one moment, right? Mickie James, 6-time champion. And you're going to tell me that Ronda Rousey is one champion, you know, and that's it. She had one title reign, and now she is ranked above all of these women who have not only way more title reigns, but more historic moments and who were there longer than she was in WWE.
Right. So as a person who enjoyed Ronda's time during WWE, you know, drag me if you want to. I kind of liked it. But, you know, like she definitely has a space in the women's wrestling history book, I feel like. But top 10, definitely not. Definitely not. She was not the one that built the women's wrestling. She was not the one that, you know, like really fought through it. She came in the right time. And she had a great run for, I think, but you're definitely not top 10 for sure.
How are we feeling about Lita's ranking at number 8? Are we okay with her at number 8, or do we think she should have been closer to the top 5?
In my ranking, I have Lita as number 4. I think Lita should easily be top 5. I personally agree with the top 2. I know DS is not a big fan of number 2 on this list, Charlotte Flair.
Wait, I love Charlotte Flair.
Oh, really? Okay, my conception is wrong then. However, I do agree with number 1 and 2 on these lists. I think that is very, very solid. I think Lita should be top 5. Personally, I have her as number 4 on my list. I was shocked that she was not at least top 5, because for a while it was always her and Trish, and China in the mix too as well. So the fact that she, again, it's all subjective. There's a lot you could shift around numbers. I can totally see arguments for either one, but I think she should have been top 5, honestly.
It's just once it gets to the top 10 or top 5 even, it's easy to interchange the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Because you have women who have not only been Raw Women's Champion, but SmackDown Women's Champion, NXT Women's Champion, and Money in the Bank winners. And now you have them competing in first ever matches,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I like that Becky Lynch is top 5. I do agree that she should be there. Asuka, I think we can maybe push her back a little bit, still top 10. But I would just push her back a little bit. China, I think, is in a great spot. Alundra Blaze, I also feel that we can move her back a little bit. Just because, I love her, but, again, Bailey, Grand Slam champion. I feel like you get to top 5, you have to have these championships, like more than more than 5 reigns. You need not only SmackDown, but Raw. And there's just so many historic moments that can go into the top 5 now that I feel like they can push people a little bit forward.
Well, do you think that WWE ranked it like this, or whoever did it, so that the 4 horsewomen were all not in the top 5?
Rude.
Right. I think
Like-
they had to spread them out a little
Yeah,
bit.
I'm starting to think that's why they spread them out, because I mean, you look at all of their accomplishments. They've done so much in their career in the WWE, but to think about ranking them, 1 through 5 or 1 through 6, like the fans would have lost their mind and they would have come out saying WWE is always pushing the 4 horsewomen. So I'm kind of thinking that's why they had Bailey at the position that she was in, and they don't have her on this list, this
Right.
1 to 9.
Right. I again, like, I completely agree with you, Iridian. Like a 1 to 8, I feel like it could really just shift the numbers and it will all make sense. The only thing that's really noteworthy, so Lita, obviously, she inspired so many people. I freaking love Lita, so she could be higher in the list, but I also am fine with this. The only thing that's really noteworthy for me, looking at 1 to 8, is that there is no one from Diva era. And that really tells how WWE think about that era, because there are so many talented women during the era, but in their mind, because of their butterfly championship or something, they just don't see their accomplishments as on par with the women of now or the women of like the Trisha Lita time, or even Golden Era. Yeah.
If you were to have someone on this top list from the Divas era, who would it be?
Anyone from Mickey, Beth, or Melina, or even Michelle McCool. Any one of those 4 could be top 10, I feel like.
What do you
I
think?
agree with you.
Yeah.
I think a Michelle McCool would probably be, 1 through 9. I think that would be great. She had some of the most memorable moments I remember growing up. She had some amazing feuds with Mickie James. And her and Layla were always kind of like, I feel like they were always a pair, but like Layla's so far, from where Michelle McCool is. So that's also like a discrepancy that I see in the list.
Right.
WWE also released a list of women, kind of, we mentioned it earlier with Sable. So it's a list of women that they wanted to mention who didn't have that notable of a in-ring career, but they still wanted to recognize them. They recognized Miss Elizabeth, Terry Runnels, Deborah, Tori Wilson, Sapphire, Stacy Keibler, and Vicky Guerrero. And they also mentioned Sunny. I should mention that too. So the reason why I had mentioned that Sable should be on this list is because I felt like for the longest time, people looked at Sable and Sunny like head to head, right? They were both very iconic faces in that 90s time. So to have Sunny, who's very problematic in her own right, be on one list and have Sable on the other is kind of what confused me. And that's why I thought maybe Sable should have fallen under that other list. Yes, she was a former women's champion, so I can see why they chose her over Sunny, but Tori Wilson is a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Tori Wilson was in the ring. I mean, I'm not saying she held championships, but she busted her ass in the ring for many years, and she progressively got better until she finally retired.
Tori definitely should have been on the top 50 for sure.
Yes.
Someone that they didn't mention that I was upset, not even like in honorable mentions, in the list, Maria. She was just like, not even honorable mention. They totally forgot about her. And I'm like, she was just a big part of the WWE for so long. And even when they brought her back with her husband, she still did a majority of the work, manager wise. So I don't know who was making this list that was like, all right, I'm not going to include these women. They're not part of the 50 greatest of all time. Right. It'll be interesting to see, like, maybe in a couple of years, if they remake this list, if it'll be different, if people will be out of this list. Right. So
But before we go to who's not included, can we talk about the top three or top four maybe? Because there's some juicy stuff there. I mean, first of all, China being mentioned in the list, I think that's huge.
Absolutely. I do think it's interesting that in her video package, they did mention the Hall of Fame. The way they kind of framed it, I feel like WWE is almost like, I feel like they're trying to say she's in the Hall of Fame so people feel like, okay, she's in there, you know, it's fine, but she's not in there solely. Like, let's not act like her being inducted with DX is such a huge deal. She's being overshadowed by all these men. She should be in there solely, without a doubt. You look at Beth Phoenix's Icons documentary that they did. She was inspired by China. Victoria, her tape was given to WWE by China. China has inspired so many of these women, and she's not in the WWE Hall of Fame, but she's what, fourth on the list? Like, at least, you know, give her flowers. If you're going to recognize her, she should be in the Hall of Fame, period.
I feel like how Trish is portrayed, you know, how WWE looks at her. Of course, if it's top five, it's not the way that they look at China. And you're right, they're not giving her flowers at all. And I feel like if they're going to put her at such, you know, top five, which she is top five in a lot of our lists, right? They need to really step up and make us or like represent her better in the WWE. If she's top five, you need to remind people that she is top five, even though they did her so dirty, right? Start building her back up because she wasn't shown in the best light.
Right.
Do you agree with Becky Lynch being ranked at number 3?
Yeah, I think that was like one of my biggest questions too. Becky or Charlotte, who will be higher in the list? I don't know. I think it could go either way, to be honest. But what do you guys think?
I think I like Charlotte at number 2. But you know what's kind of crazy? I think WWE has really pushed on the fans to almost accept Charlotte as like the modern day Trish. And you get to this list and she still could not beat Trish. And I saw a lot of people online talking about that. Charlotte has been pushed so much and she gets to this list and Trish still outbeats her. Like, what gives? But I mean, Trish was around for so long and Charlotte is still in her career. I mean, I have no doubt that Charlotte could be at that number 1 spot one day.
Hey, if anything, Charlotte should call NBC or WWE and like, thank you so much for not putting me in number 1. She gets enough hate. She should thank them, send them flowers and apples and the fruit basket because she needs to thank them right now. If she was number 1, she will get so much hate. And I feel like the only one that can walk away not getting any hate being number 1 is probably Trish or China, I feel like. So everyone, be thankful that you're not number 1. But yeah, I agree. I'm so happy that Trish is number 1. Yeah, Charlotte is so accomplished. And obviously she was given so much opportunity, but that's a different conversation. But, you know, she got so much accomplishments and she's great in the ring. And I think her character is great. So I definitely see her in number 2 for sure.
I thought she was going to be number 1, to be honest. I could totally see, personally, I believe 1 and 2 are solid choices. I really thought that they were going to have her as number 1 and Trish is number 2, but I'm certainly not mad that Trish is number 1 and she's number 2. But like DS and we're all saying, Charlotte has many, many years ahead of her, and I'm sure she will break more records and break more history. I do believe, again, you can give or take with a lot of these positions, but I think Trish is definitely a solid number 1. She was the most decorated women's champion before Charlotte broke that record for like many, many years. Like, she was the number 1 most decorated champion for at least 10 plus years. And then Charlotte broke it. And Trish was the bar setter for the longest time through the Divas era and through the modern era before Charlotte broke that record. So maybe 20 years down the line, Charlotte will be number 1, but I think 1 and 2 are solid choices. I personally would have put Becky a little bit lower. But again, I can totally see the argument for her being top 5. I think on my list, she's about number 5. So, but again, she's totally decorated and totally deserving. But again, it's just everybody's personal opinion.
Right. And if you're also a newer fan who missed Trish's time,
Yeah.
I really, because a lot of people are saying like, oh, she's so like overrated or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a reason that people say that she is the model diva or the model women's champion. Just look at her work, face work in 2003, and then compare that to her heel work in 2004. It's just amazing. It's 100% satisfying.
Trish is my everything. So I love her at number one. You know, I do think that in a couple years, Charlotte is going to take that spot because I just know Charlotte is going to be like a 16-time world champion. I just
Oh.
know it, right? Like she's going to
yeah.
be, I don't care what belts they give her, they're going to give her 16 title reigns. And Trish might even move back to like a number 3 or number 4, because if Becky comes back, I do see Becky putting in, you know, those hours and also getting those championship reigns. Same with Sasha Banks and same with Bailey. They're just the 4 horsewomen. I feel like, you know, in a couple years, they will be top 5.
I think another potential champion would be Bliss has had a number of champions too. I feel like she's one of the outside factors from the 4 horsewomen who can give a run to the money for that record for championships. I feel like she's definitely going to get a lot more too down the line too.
My bet's on Sasha Banks because we all know that she's been so freaking talented, but WWE just hasn't been giving her that much opportunity compared to how explosively talented she is. But you know what? Disney likes her now, so WWE can't say no anymore. So I see her moving even higher up on the list.
I hope that if this list is created again, we get a woman of color in the top 2, top 3, top 4. Like,
I hope so.
When you guys were talking about how Trish Stratus held that accomplishment for 10 years and now you have Charlotte coming in, I wish we would have, you know, a woman of color taking over for Trish. And I don't know if it's WWE's thought pattern or if they're trying to think of how the fans will react to a woman of color being the top person in their company. But I think that we are in 2021 and we need to diversify who we have on the main pinnacle of their company. I think Sasha Banks, she's heading towards it. She's doing such great work. She's expanding her horizons, you know, doing Disney, doing other stuff. She was at NASCAR. So she's on her way up there. But I could also see, hopefully, I pray that they realize what they have in Asuka. I think she would also be a great one to be the face of the company. Asuka or Bailey or Sasha. These are 3 women of color, you know, 3 non-white women who are just doing great things, who I think should be the face of the company.
Completely agreed. Yeah. I mean, if you see from top 1 to top 30, there's very limited number of talent of color. And, you know, and at the end of the day, these championship, it's a decision coming from the management. So, you know, and then if you see even top 2, like, you know, Trish and Charlotte, obviously very, very talented, but also they're given a lot of opportunities that a lot of the women could not enjoy. So, you know, hopefully that is something that will change. Obviously, seeing how Asuka is being booked as a Raw Women's Champion is kind of an indication of like, oh, it's not changing much. But hopefully things do change. Like Bianca versus Sasha Banks. That is a hope that we want to see more.
Absolutely. There are a couple people that were not on this list that we kind of mentioned earlier, but there were a couple more. So Diaz and I had actually talked about this. Candice Michelle was not on the list, and I'm not sure if they did it because she's been problematic in the past, but you also looked that they had Sunny on there. So at what point do you cut off problematic? Candice Michelle is a former women's champion, and she's not mentioned on this list.
And she was
Don't even
very
get me
popular.
started on Alicia Fox.
Oh, yeah. So Candice Michelle, again, like her recent political stuff has been very problematic, but in-ring accomplishment and the championship, the historic, she's got some legendary moments. So I was surprised to see her not on this list. And she was also called to be back in these Legends Night and stuff.
Right.
Like that. So I was surprised to not see her on the list. Yeah.
Do you think that Maria's recent comments about the Divas era and how WWE treated her is why she was not mentioned on this list?
Possibly. Maybe she was on and someone looked at it and was like, oh, well, she's, you know, said some things, but also Gail Kim's on the list. So I'm just like, you know, it totally doesn't make sense that some people have talked about WWE and they made the list and other people's have talked and they didn't. I don't know. I would hope that they weren't being petty and they were like, oh, you know, because Maria was such a big part of WWE. I don't know what people were thinking when they made this list.
I was surprised to see Dawn Marie's not in the list.
Yes,
right?
she isn't.
Yeah, Dawn Marie, I was very surprised. I thought she would at least be in that out of the in-ring mention, because who can forget that funeral segment? So good.
I think the biggest person that is not mentioned on this list is Alicia Fox, and this irritates my soul. I waited for this whole list to come out because I held out hope that maybe she would be on here somewhere, like at least top 20. She's not mentioned anywhere on here. The first Black Divas champion, she was with WWE for a very long time. They look at her as a legend, but she's not on this list. She was even at the 2021 Royal Rumble, not on this list. Do you think that they just forgot about her, or do you think that they just do not see her as being one of the 50 greatest women in the WWE? I'm personally offended.
I'm offended. She's welcome back for Royal Rumble, so it's obvious that she's in their short list. So I don't know what happened, but she definitely had to be on this list. It's insult. And also, she's just one of the people, she's like epitome of not given the fair chance. You know, she's the epitome of that. So if she was honestly given the right chance, like what earlier in her career, people from outside the company, inside the company, the legends were all singing praises about her, but she was just not given the fair chance. So, oh, just so sad. Just so sad.
Yeah, because Alicia has huge impact, you know, in the WWE. And not only like her in-ring work, but also she was on, you know, Total Divas. We got to see that other side of her and a lot of the struggles that she went with in WWE. So for them to just completely not even the honorable mentions, they just totally tried to write her off of this list.
I don't know. Maybe there is some backstage factor because, again, we don't know who wrote this list. But like you guys said, she is a Divas champion. She was leader of the Raw Survivor Series team a couple years ago. She is one of the best in-ring athletes and best sellers ever. She is one of the longest tenured women in WWE history. You know, she has so many list of accomplishments. And the fact that she's not even on this is insane to me and unfathomable. I don't know the reasoning behind it. I really don't know, but she definitely deserves a spot on this list, honestly.
You know what's interesting? I haven't seen a lot of people realize that she's not on the list. I've seen a handful of, yes, I've seen a handful of people that have mentioned it, but it hasn't been as big of a deal as Ronda Rousey being on the list. Like, it's very interesting how fans perceive this list. I think before the list was released, people were like, oh, what's going to happen? And then as it started getting released, you see people, you know, sending out the numbers and stuff like that. And I think some people were just along for the ride. And there's other people who can't believe that this list is here.
But someone should have approved it.
Right.
But also, I want to mention Tamina is not in the list. She's been there for so long. So to see, like, again, I don't know dig in any of them, but like to see, you know, rookies like Shotzi Blackheart, Candice LeRae, who's starting their career in WWE, and not seeing Tamina there, Alicia Fox there, that is kind of sad. Did they mention Lillian Garcia in the honorable mention?
They did not. They did not mention Renee Young. They didn't mention any of their backstage people. I mean, you could have even lumped Crystal Marshall in there. She was a backstage interviewer for a while there, and then she entered the in-ring field. But I think there are so many women that they could have at least honored, whether it was off the list or on the list, and they just weren't mentioned. Like, I think every person that has made an impact in WWE should have been honorably mentioned 100%. I'm curious to see what the people that weren't on the list think. Alicia Fox does not use social media like that, so we definitely won't hear from her, but I'm wondering if Tori Wilson will say something. She seems very squeaky clean, so I don't think she will. I think Sunny would probably say something, but we don't know if that will be G-rated, so.
You know, I think that a lot of people maybe were like really paying attention to like the first couple posts because this was released in parts. And then people maybe just kind of like forgot about it and they were like, oh, well, they released the rest of the list, but nobody really like looked in depth into the numbers, which is why I feel like maybe a lot of people didn't notice that Alicia was like not in it because they didn't really, you know, look at it. I just realized that, you know, Ronda Rousey, you know, today was like number 9. I'm like, there's no way. How? Like, I could have been tweeting about this for weeks because I would have been, you know, so pissed if they would have just released it all at once, every single number. I feel like it would have been a bigger deal, but I feel like they're getting away with things because they released it in parts on Twitter.
I also think too, they did it in parts because they wanted to draw people's interest in. So, doing it in parts, they can kind of see or gauge how many people watched each part. I'm sure most people probably watched 9 through 1 or 5 through 1, however they did it. And meanwhile, you have like the later on numbers. They might be viewed a lot since they were posted first, but you never know. So I think that's why they did it, in the segments. But if they would have put the whole list out, let's be honest, people wouldn't have not handled that well.
I was growing with anticipation with each day because I knew I was setting myself up to be angry. I'm like, I know so-and-so is going to be at this number and I'm praying that they're not. And then just anticipation with your personal favorites. You're like, where are they going to land? And then you're setting yourself up, I think, to be angry or surprised or maybe happy in some regard. But it's just that anticipation. I mean, it worked for a marketing standpoint, whatever they were going for. It definitely worked. It definitely made me watch because I wanted to know where certain people were landing. So
I wonder if this will work as a blueprint for future Hall of Fame inductions or Royal Rumble invitation, if this holds any, importance in their mind. I don't know. I'm curious.
It should be interesting to see the backlash or what happens after this list. And it's only been out a couple weeks now, about a week, right? We'll see what happens. I mean, a lot of the women have not commented on it. There's a lot of women who are on the current roster who aren't mentioned on the list. So I think we're in for a wild ride. Thank you guys for joining me today on Wrestling Winedown. Where can the people find you on social media? We will start with DS.
You can find me at DS Shin on Instagram and Ring the Bell DS on Twitter and on YouTube, Ring the Bell.
You can find me at anything Rest Friends. Hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Rest Friends, and also follow us on YouTube and listen to our podcast on all streaming platforms. That's the Rest Friends podcast.
You can find me at wrestlinggal.com. You can listen to a Wrestling Gal podcast basically anywhere you get your podcast. And you can now find me on SC Scoop's YouTube for women's wrestling focus and listen to the Gawcast, Gaw TV, which I am their editor for. So, and you can find me on Twitter at It's Ella J.